topic dealing with adults than anyone. But it's even more difficult when it's about a child because no one wants to deal with it.
Right.
No one wants to acknowledge it, that something is very wrong. So it can't be what you see and what you feel.
Right.
It has to be something wrong with you
Right.
for even suggesting that a child knows enough or feels enough to do something like that.
Right. Right.
You know, so it's almost like, what's wrong with you to think that that child has feelings, real feelings? And I've always told people, you know, children absolutely do have feelings.
For sure.
And they're valid feelings because definitely in the case of children, perception is reality. Because they don't have, what they don't have is experience.
Exactly.
But they definitely have feelings.
Right. And they don't have the experience to know that when something gets really hard or when they feel terrible,
Right.
that it's going to get better later.
Right.
You know, it's going to, this too will pass. That's
Right.
something that we don't start to say until we're in our 30s, 40s, some people
Right.
50s. Yes.
But you know, I mean, I prided myself on my communication and my communication with my children and being in tune with my children. And that is why I was knocking on so many doors.
Right.
Because they don't have that experience.
Right.
And they definitely don't have the ability to articulate it, how they're
Exactly.
feeling as well. Even though I believe all my children are very brilliant and,
Oh, yeah.
in their own right, and they are very articulate. But to express the amount of melancholy, which is, we see it as melancholy, but it's actually depression.
Yes. Yes. And they have no way to truly know what that is.
You
so
see?
unless you have training like a lot of adults,
Right.
they don't know what depression is.
So they know that there's something wrong with them.
Yes. And they put it off on that there's something wrong with them. Why are they so different from everybody else?
Yes.
Why am I feeling this way? There's something really wrong with me because I
Yes.
feel this way. And because
Yes.
and there are others that feel the exact same way.
Yes.
They're just not expressing it to
They're
anybody.
just not
Because on the
expressing it.
inside they're thinking there's something wrong with me. This is something for
Absolutely.
me not to share with other people because when I try to share with other people, they tell me I shouldn't feel that way.
That's
they tell
right.
me I should do this, this, and this.
That's
and
right.
I know that when I do this, this, and this, I don't feel better.
That's
So,
right.
you know?
So, you know, they need that validation. And
Yes.
the other thing is, it's a delicate dance. Because as much as I was communicating with my son and my children, well, then they fall into, well, you're my mom. You're supposed to feel that way.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean?
Or oh mom, you worry too much.
Exactly.
You exaggerate
You're way
everything.
too overprotected.
Way too overprotected. Now, can you just talk to me about that part a little bit? They told you that you were overprotective, and that
Yes.
actually played a humongous part in your not following your instincts.
A humongous part because it makes you question yourself, which is the trick. Confusion is the trick.
Confusion, yes. Yes.
Your instincts are there to protect you and the ones that you love.
Yes.
You know, that's the inherent thing that we have is instinct.
Yes.
And we learn not to trust our instincts.
Yes.
And that's when things really go bad.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm the type of mother who if my children, if I can't touch them, I don't care if we're walking, talking, practically sleeping. If I can't touch you, that means you're way too far away.
Yes.
And see, not everyone understands that.
Right.
Because, especially those people who weren't raised that way.
Right.
Or the streets raised them, or they was lock and key.
Right.
Why don't you let that child grow up?
Right.
And so that very child will never grow up.
Right.
Here on this earth. So, if you feel something, you have to go with it. And I was especially sensitive to him because he, by nature, was a loner.
Yes.
But at the same time, it translated for him into a misfit.
Yes. Yes. Because what happens for the loners, and I'm putting that in quotes because there's so much miseducation out there about kids that tend to be the loner. Most of the time they are loners because they don't feel like they fit in.
Exactly.
They don't feel like they feel the same way as the other kids.
Exactly.
And oftentimes people tend not to understand what it is they're going through. So even if they do try to express it, and actually when they try to express it, they have no way of understanding how to express what's going on with them because nobody talks to them about how to do it.
Right.
Okay. And so, and like for you basically with him, you knew that he needed something. So you took him in to the different treatment facilities, to different therapists, and all of them told you over and over again that no, he's fine. He'll be fine.
Right.
And your instincts were telling you over and over again, no, there's something wrong. Somebody help me. You went to his school and you talked to those people about, and he was getting in trouble every day at school.
Because you see, that is what they do. They act out because they're frustrated.
Exactly.
Because they feel invisible already.
Right. And then they're treated, then they're banished. They're sent. So not only do they tend to go into isolation, but if they don't choose to on their own, then others are going to punish them and send them into isolation and send them away from the schools and not teach them what they need to learn and validate their experiences.
Yes. Got kicked out of class every day. And I tried to get his teacher switched. I tried to inquire about homeschooling. In today's time, they have the K through 12.
Right now.
Online.
Right.
Which is something that I asked about just a couple of years prior.
But even
wasn't
today,
an option.
And even today, it can be extremely difficult to get those services for your child. And so you can have a kid that's acting out, and until they become an extreme menace to the school where they just totally believe that they're out of control behavior they can't handle anymore, then they finally consider homeschooling as opposed to doing that thing early on.
Right.
Because some kids just don't quite fit into that little box that they want to create within the school environment. If they don't fit into that classroom of 30 kids, but they're not developmentally disabled, then they're a behavior problem. Let's label them emotionally disturbed. Let's send them to the worst school possible with a bunch of other emotionally disturbed kids and see how they pan out.
And
it's very bad.
The thing about that is there's no doubt and there's no dispute that my son was wise way beyond his years.
Oh, for sure.
Brilliant.
Yes.
He was a brilliant child.
And now most of these kids are.
See? Yeah. And so that becomes the issue. Just like you said, you can't put them in a box.
Not at all.
And they don't really know what to do with them because they know what to do with kids. They perceive have learning disabilities.
They know exactly what to do with those kids. Yes, yes.
But they don't know what to do with those kids who you're boring them to tears because they already know
Yes.
what you're trying to teach them.
Yes. And they're not interested in engaging in the way other students have to in order to learn.
Exactly.
So they don't need the repetition. They don't need you to read to them in order for them to comprehend. They don't need to take down the notes because they hold it in their mind what it is they're learning. And they can take and apply that to any test. Just test them.
It's really funny because to even have this part of the conversation because his teacher, the one that kicked him out every day.
That's so ridiculous.
Every day.
So ridiculous.
And she said, she called me because she told the children to describe the color blue. And she was so impressed with what my son said. She said, I didn't have to prompt him. I didn't have to give him extra instructions. He did that assignment exactly the way I pictured it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he did that, he was still trying to send a message.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a student teacher who came on Mondays. And my son already hated school, but in particular, he hated this student teacher on Mondays. So every Monday, he started being sick. That's another thing you notice.
Mm-hmm. So because I want to break this down because I want to make sure that people are able to grab a hold of the major points in here. Okay. So number one, and when we're talking about warning signs for parents, number one is go with your instincts.
Absolutely.
Never choose to discard what your instincts are telling you. Our instincts were put in place in the first place to save lives.
Yes.
So follow your instincts. Trust your instincts even if the child says they're okay, if every doctor you see says they'll be fine, if every facility you go to says we can't keep them because they're not truly suicidal.
Yes.
No matter what you're being told, trust your instincts. That is so important.
That your instincts is there for survival. You said
exactly.
And then people want to say, well, we have a mind to think, and this is what separates us from animals. Mm-hmm. Well, we are animals. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're a higher species,
but we still are animals. Exactly.
And yes, we can think, but we think we better follow those instincts.
Yes,
because when you don't, danger follows because instinct is warning you there's danger in the area. That's
what preserved us from the beginning.
Because
see, back in the day, you don't follow your instincts. Your kid gets taken away by a saber-toothed tiger or a dingo or something, right? You don't follow your instincts. That's exactly what happens. And so we can't discard simply because we have higher minds.
That's right.
The thing that kept us surviving and that keeps us surviving.
Is instincts.
Okay? Because our instincts tell us to do things like eat.
Right.
And drink.
Right.
And, so follow your instincts.
It's not right.
This is fire. Go away. Right? And so we can't pick and choose where not to follow our instincts.
You see, so your mind plays tricks on you. Your instincts don't.
Okay, now you have to help me. Okay? Because we got through number one. And as I was doing number one, number two went out the mind. But what was the second point that you were making? Because you were just going to make the point, and I didn't want to lose point number one first.
Okay, because every Monday he was sick.
Yes.
Okay, so sick does not work like that.
Right.
Sick does not pick a day.
Right.
Of the week.
So pay attention to patterns.
That's it.
Pay attention to patterns. If your child is sick, every Monday,
yes,
then there is a serious issue going on.
there is a serious issue.
Especially when you know there's something attached to that Monday.
Absolutely.
Pay attention to patterns. And you have to take these things seriously.
Yes.
If your child acts out every single time it's time to go to a certain place,
Yes.
pay attention to what they're trying to tell you,
See,
through their
it's
behaviors.
no mistake. They put a lot of thought into what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So it was no mistake that my son decided to take his life the first day of school.
None at all. None at all. No mistake.
See, because it's always connected to something. They feel that way for some reason, or something is making them feel stronger about their decision.
Yes.
See, and they're telling you what it is all the time. All you have to do is pay attention.
Yes, and they're telling you most often through their behaviors.
That's it.
It's not going to happen by way of words.
It's not.
Going to happen through behaviors.
They're giving you clues.
Yes.
The whole time.
The whole time, yes.
So that's what I found so frustrating. He sent the clues. I received them. I try to act on them. And then everyone tells me I'm the crazy one. Or it must be something I'm doing at home.
Something I'm doing wrong, yes.
To make him feel this way or act this way. Although he rarely acted out at home. It was very rare.
Right.
It was always at school.
Yes.
And, it just didn't start that year, that time. His first attempt, he was 6.
Right around first grade.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. At school.
Mm-hmm.
And his last, his completion was done at 12 and a half.
The day before starting middle school.
Right. Right. He was discovered that morning. He actually committed to it and did it the day before, the evening before.
Yes.
But I discovered him that morning.
Yes.
With his lunch money in his pocket. He was dressed for school in case it didn't work.
Wow.
So he had his lunch money, an ID. He was dressed and ready to go in case he actually woke up the next morning.
So let's talk about that night before, because there were many
before
signs.
I get there,
Okay.
let me go back to The Color Blue. Because when he wrote that essay about the color blue, he said blue like Mondays.
Whoa.
Okay?